that 600k off road would be really hard to beat right now because it was so thrilling. Like it was up and down and bumpy and am I going to get through this bit? I also had 3 rips in my back tyre, so I was putting slug plugs in my back tyre, and it was just the ultimate, am I going to get there? And, I couldn't get a new tyre, so it was fix it or, you're walking. It was quite cool. I really felt like I came into my own there in terms of like physical. I felt really good and just kind of like, yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I can get myself there.
Welcome to the Seek Travel Ride podcast, where we share the stories and experiences of people who have undertaken amazing adventures by bike. Whether it's crossing state borders, mountain ranges, countries or continents, we want to share that spirit of adventuring on 2 wheels with our listeners. Hello, I'm your host Bella Malloy, and I'm very excited to introduce my guest for today's episode of the Seek Travel Ride podcast, Claire Wyatt. She's an avid outdoors adventurer. Starting out as a cycling guide in Cambodia, Claire has since undertaken several cycle tours and enjoys exploring places on her 2 wheels. She's currently on the biggest tour yet, cycling across Australia. Yes, that's right, that big continent country all on its own. Claire set off from Tasmania and has so far made it all the way to northern Queensland. I'm really looking forward to learning more about Claire's experiences as she shares her story with us. Claire, welcome to the show.
Hi Bella, thank you very much for having me. I've been listening to your podcast the last couple of weeks, listening to the other adventurers you've had on, and it's been inspiring. So really pleased to come on myself.
Oh, I'm really excited, Claire. I think your story is going to be one that's going to inspire a lot of our listeners as well. So, as you may know then as a listener, the first question I always like to ask all my guests is, can you remember the very first bike you ever rode?
Yeah, this is a tough one actually, because I've been listening to your podcast. I knew this was coming, so I spoke to my mum and we had a good laugh about it actually. And well, first of all, so I'm a twin. I have a twin sister, and mum was saying that she rode a bike the day before we were born, and she's like, she was on the bike, huge as anything, and then the next day gave birth to us.
Oh,
so
wow.
She was like, "That's why you love cycling."
Oh my gosh, that is the coolest story.
She's like, you have to put that in.
Thank you, Claire's mum.
And then so I'm one of 5 kids, and it was always being outdoors. So cycling, we learned pretty young. But yeah, I don't remember like the first ever bike, because it would definitely just be a hand-me-down from one of my older siblings. But we were always out and about on the bikes, and mum did say that me and my twin were on stabilizers for a long time because she had the 3 older kids off stabilizers, and she couldn't watch all of us. So she was like, you 2 need to stay on stabilizers for as long as possible. So yeah, that was it.
So with cycling, and it's funny because I always have a sense of this from countries that people are raised in. So, and I've probably said this before, but as an Australian, cycling as a kid, you learn it growing up. You know, most kids probably lucky enough to get their first bike and come off the training wheels around 4 or 5 years of age. And then they'll ride bikes as a child, probably until maybe early teens. And then in Australia, we sort of stop riding. And then some of us rediscover that love of riding as an adult, and some of us never do. But I always wondered in the UK, which perhaps has a similar type of car culture to what Australia has, did you continue riding right through your teens as well? Or did you ride a bike for a while and then stop?
Yeah, actually, really similar to you. We rode all the way through like our childhood. We'd cycle to school. Mum would have us all going to school on the bikes, which was 10k. And then yeah, you get to kind of secondary school and everything else comes into play. And cycling definitely. I got into hockey, field hockey, and I was never on my bike really from that. So yeah, I think it's the same kind of culture in the UK. People do have a gap in their teenage years and then come back to it.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like I said, there's certain countries where I can pick where that's going to be a similar sort of trend. And it's my own little hypothesis before I interview a guest of trying to understand how did cycling inform their early teen years as well, perhaps. Could I ask then, Claire, it's pretty clear from what I know about you, just reading about through your online blogs and your Instagram profile and stuff, that the outdoors is a passion for you, as is travel. Did the outdoors feature a lot for you in your early years then, in your childhood and in your teens? Were you an outside sort of kid? Were you on outdoor holidays?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, just having all the siblings around, we were always playing outside, and whether it was playing rugby with the boys or cricket games in the garden, it was just always outside. And then, yeah, mum always took us on summer holidays to the Alps or, different countries where it was just adventures, and whether it be, yeah, cycling, skiing, just all sorts of, but she'd always do it, let's go whitewater rafting or let's go kayaking. It would just always be a new adventure. So yeah, I've definitely got my mum to thank in that sense. Yeah, she's very, very sporty herself, so it's definitely come from her.
Oh gosh, I might have to find out if I need to have her on the pod as well. Um,
Yeah.
so a lot of your holidays then obviously were active holidays to some degree as well.
Yeah, definitely with mum, 100%. You wouldn't get away with a beach holiday with mum. It was yeah, she's always up and hiking around. So yeah, no beach holidays with mum.
Oh, actually, on that note then, do you think you could do a beach holiday?
Oh no, I can do it for a day and I'll read my book or something and then I'll be up and go in somewhere.
I'm definitely with you. I think I don't know that it's boredom. I would just get itchy feet. I'd want to explore the beach or look to see if there's a hiking track, or most likely, can I cycle to and from here? But yeah, I love a book, but not enough to lie on the beach all day to read it.
Yeah, I know. I hate the sun. I'm ginger, so people can't see me, but I'm pretty ginger. So it's the sun is not my friend.
I guess then, Claire, something that did come up then, and listening to this little insight about your early travel experiences, you love the outdoors. Is that what was an inspiration between you creating what you deemed the great outdoors bucket list?
Well, yeah, I just think I've probably, yeah, I've been traveling since a young age. Really, my dad moved abroad when I was 11, so we were constantly getting on the plane and independently. So whether that was, a couple of us siblings going out to visit dad, but that really from 11 I was traveling on a plane, and then I think I just got confident with flying and going places. Yeah, it kind of stemmed from that, and then this love for travel came, and then this bucket list that I've created is just all the places I want to go and do adventure tours, or yeah, just anything out there.
And is it a static list, or do you find that do you ever look back on it and add things to it, or do you go, oh, I don't want to do that anymore?
Yeah, I think I change a bit every year. Like I'll look at that list and go, actually, no, I don't want to do that, or 3 years ago I did a bungee jump, but I would never do that now. And it's interesting how you change as well. So yeah, it's always changing, and I'll add things on, take things off. Yeah.
It'd be really interesting, even from the start to the stop of, say, your current tour through Australia. It's such a long journey that you're
Mm.
on. I mean, you've travelled such a vast distance already, from Tasmania across to the mainland, all the way up to nearly the very top of Queensland at the moment. Like, you're
Yeah.
very high North Queensland. Anecdotally, you've probably already seen more of Australia than Australians have themselves. But a lot of that time would be spent on your own too. So I wonder how much all that solo travel informs what your list is going to be about.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like you say, you are on your own all the time, so you learn about yourself, and I definitely have changed what I like doing since being on the bike. It's I still love being around people, but I still really appreciate time on my own. So it's interesting how you can change on a bike tour.
Absolutely. So I guess when we were talking earlier, you cycled as a kid, then you left it alone, you were into your outdoor sports, you had outdoor holidays. But you did wind up very early on working in Cambodia in a cycling company, working as a cycling guide. Can you talk us through a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a bit of a story. So I went to Loughborough University to study criminology to become a policewoman, and so I did my degree, passed, got it, and was applying to become a policewoman. I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then I did email some other companies, that just these adventure companies that I just were my passion. And I was like, I'll email these while I apply for the police. I just thought they'd never reply. And this one travel company took their time. I think it was like 2 months since I sent the email. And then they said, can you call us tomorrow? And I was like, oh, you've taken 2 months to email me, and it's 6 o'clock and you want me to call tomorrow. But I just went, let's do it. This is a sign. Did the Skype call, and they said, can you come in a week to Cambodia? And I'd never been, and I just said to mum, looks like I'm not joining the police. I'm going to Cambodia. Yeah, so it was a big leap of faith, and I went out to Cambodia to work for. It was a travel company at the time. Well, this was different to the cycling company. It was organising tours for over 50s, and yeah, so I was on the customer service team, and it got me out to Cambodia. So yeah, it completely changed my life, that one email.
I just think of where you are now and what you've done. Like we were talking about how things inform your personality, I can just totally see how landing that role, it's like a sliding doors moment for you, isn't it? You've just finished your criminology degree on the cusp of potentially entering a career that you'd studied for, but your passion overrules and comes in last minute almost and sets you off a totally different trajectory. Is police work something you ever think about still?
No. No, sadly, I really love people, and I don't want to see all the bad people out there.
So obviously something happened there. Did you stay with the same company and then transition to being a cycling guide, or did you seek an opportunity where that was something that you did and you changed roles?
Yeah, so it was another company. So it was again another moment where I had a choice. It was the company, the travel company I was working for. They were moving locations, but I was in love with Cambodia. Just loved it out there. Didn't want to move, so I stepped away from that company. Was walking down the street and was like, "Oh, there's a bike shop there. That looks." And I still wasn't into cycling. I hadn't ridden in Cambodia up to then. And I went on their website, and like websites have the live chat button. I just said, "Hi, do you have any jobs?" And a guy called Jake replied, and he said, "No, we don't, but would you like to go for coffee tomorrow?" And we went for coffee, and I had never met him before, and we just became best friends on the dot. And I'm actually going to his wedding in a couple of months. So we basically, he was managing this cycling company, and he wanted to step up and become a regional manager, and he needed someone to take over the management of the Cambodia branch. And he said, "Would you do it?" So he trained me up for 6 months, and then I ran the cycling shop there. So yeah, so it wasn't really tour guiding, it was more I was on managing the shop.
In a way, that opportunity, it's like, the universe in a way is just landing these sort of things. Like, they're not out there without you looking for them necessarily. But again, a passion project comes and evolves and changes where you're traveling as well and what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
So how long had you been in Cambodia for at that stage?
So I think I must have been there a year, a bit more than a year, when I swapped over, when I went to the cycling company. So it was a big kind of, I nearly went home to the UK. I was like, okay, maybe it's time. I've had a fun year. And then when I got this chance at Grasshopper Adventures, I was like, I've got to take this, and then I stayed out for till COVID. So yeah.
Get to how COVID changed things for you there. But before COVID, you helped out on an event called Life Cycle 2020.
Yeah, which was amazing.
Can you tell our listeners and share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I've been riding a lot. I was really getting into the bigger distances, and I was practicing lots, and I got approached by a charity to tour guide for them, this life cycle event. And basically there were 9 Cambodians with disabilities. They wanted to raise money for a food bank, and they wanted to cycle. So they approached our cycling shop and said, "Can you help us with the bikes?" They organised the van, organised the logistics, and they said, "Can Claire come?" And I was like, "I'd love to come." So I got to go on it, and I just learned so much from these Cambodians who had, a lot of them, because there's still a lot of landmines in Cambodia. About half of them were amputees from stepping on landmines, and they were riding normal bikes and not adapted bikes. They were the same that we would ride, and they made it look easy. They all fell in love with cycling. We trained leading up to it, and it just gave them a real just purpose for them. And they it's hard to be disabled in Cambodia. It's hard enough in Cambodia to make money, but to add a disability to it, you don't get employed easily, and all of this. So to give them some confidence was incredible. And we gave them jerseys, got them cycling gloves, and you could just see every week that we saw them, they were getting more confident, and it was an awesome thing to be a part of.
So did you go on that tour and you were embedded as part of the support team?
I was riding with them, so essentially I was the guide, but I wasn't, because they're Cambodian, they know what they're doing. So I was like, "Guys, you are leading." I wanted them to feel the leadership as well. So half the time I was at the back; they were too quick. But it was I can and could speak Khmer, but not many of them could speak English. So it was a great balance of, it was just brilliant, the whole experience.
Was this in a way, was this a first experience of cycle, like that sort of cycling point to point to point sort of travel, or had you done some of this yourself as well?
So at that point, I think I'd been to Vietnam with Dad on one of our multi-day tours, so I got to go, which was really cool, and my dad joined, but that was with a group of customers, and so I got to experience what our multi-day tours were like. So that was my first one, and then life cycle. So I've been on the guided ones, and then so I was getting more confident with traveling longer distances, and then then it was time to go off on my own after. But no, it was life cycle. Cambodia was brilliant, and I went back to Cambodia before I came to Australia, and we took the group out again, so we rented bikes for the day. And it's just, again, they love cycling, so it's just brilliant to go out and spend the day with them.
Oh, what a great opportunity to be able to revisit some of those people that you met on that trip as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, really, really nice.
And the stories you could share with them, because you've done some pretty cool tours since then. And in fact, we spoke about COVID coming in and changing the trajectory for you once again, because obviously when COVID happens and you're in a country working in a role that's really probably based on tourism, and tourism stops, so does your job. And you were made redundant, weren't you?
Yeah, so it came really quickly. They shut Siem Reap Airport, and it was just like it was like everyone, you just don't know what to do. And we had 50 Cambodian staff to pay, no money coming in. We had fleets of 100 bikes plus. So yeah, we were just doing everything we could to make a little bit of money. But the airport was closed, so it was trying to ask the expats to come on cheap rides and just anything we could. And then it got to the point I was like, I'll step down, my wage be put to the locals, and we'll just see how long we can keep it going. And yeah, so I stepped away, and they kept going for a couple of months, but it was so hard for any businesses out there and in the world to carry on. So yeah, but I think they're back open now, which is great. So they're rehiring a lot of the locals.
That must have been really difficult, because you'd carved out this like little niche job for yourself. You were, enjoying life in Cambodia, embedded in that sort of community there where you were based as well. And then obviously everything has gone upside down and you're trying to make it work, but you did take a redundancy. And I noticed something there, that you wangled a bike and some panniers as part of your payout package.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this because the traveller in you, and bearing in mind we're in a pandemic where the world shut down, but you're still thinking about adventure?
Yeah. I think I was at quite a low point, because we were constantly cutting down the team. We were constantly, before I made redundant, we were cutting wages, and you had to have those really emotional conversations with locals. And I was just drained. I was like, this is awful. And I kind of realised my time in Cambodia was up. So I was like, all right, how can I see all of Cambodia that I haven't seen yet? And I was so happy and loving cycling. So I was like, okay, I've got to get the bike and the panniers. And I left pretty quickly after I took redundancy, because I just needed to get out on the bike. So a couple of days after redundancy, I started the tour.
And so what was that very first tour you started on?
So I left. So I went down to the islands in Cambodia, and then basically cycled all the way home. So I think it was about 1,500 kilometers. So for my first tour, that was, I had no idea, and I was nervous, but I was so excited and knew the language and felt comfortable being out there on my own, and had an amazing time, and it kick-started everything for me.
Yeah, because I guess, and it is one of those things, when you first take off on that first cycle tour and everything, like, it's not that you don't know how to ride a bike, and you're an outdoors person, so you've probably, slept in a tent before, but you are all about seeing places. And for me, the beauty of slow travel just comes front of mind on those first few days. And especially once you've done a multi-day tour and you realise that you can do these things, for me, it just opens up a world of possibility. And I imagine that's potentially what's happened in this instance as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think I just realised, like, wow, this is the best way to travel ever. And I was just meeting locals, and they would invite me to stay over. And it was the first time I was like, wow, there's no fear. Like, I don't feel like I'm going to be in any harm going and staying with locals, or, just being on your own. And it just opened up, possibilities and the desire to travel further and travel more. And yeah, it was quite special, actually. for sure.
And like, had you taken inspiration from other people that you knew, or were you taking inspiration from other bicycle tourers, or was this just a brand new experience?
I think I was still really early on in like the bike touring world because I even though I'd been running the bike shop, I was still new into cycling and new into panniers and then there was a girl called Chloe that travelled to Siem Reap, and she cycled. I believe it was from France to Japan, and she did a talk in Siem Reap, and I heard it, and it was that was one of the moments I was like, wow, she did France to Japan. And then again, you just think all of these ideas come into your mind. And when I realized, she did it as a solo female, I was totally inspired. And yeah, she was definitely more than she ever knows. She really kicked it off for me as well.
I love hearing those stories, Claire. I absolutely love them because I know that I have gone down similar sort of rabbit holes. I don't know. And you do it, and look, in the world of algorithms as well, as soon as you start following people with similar interests, that's what gets suggested. And so your own world, you get a tunnel vision for your passion as well. And that's what you sort of see and seek out. But also, you realize just there are inspirational people that are doing what you want to do and showing you the way to make it possible as well.
Yeah.
I know certainly, cycle touring is, it is very similar to everything else in the world. Like there's probably infinitely more men that cycle tour than women do, but there are some real, excuse my language everyone, but some real kick-ass females out there that do these things too. And in fact, we were sort of communicating before the show about someone very famous and kick-ass called Dervla Murphy. Do you want to talk to us about her and how she's inspired you?
Yeah, I love Dervla Murphy. Like someone basically gave me Dervla Murphy's book, a really old version of it, and I've kept it in my panniers for a long, long time. But basically, Dervla is a bike traveller, and she, in the 1960s, travelled from Ireland to India on her own with a revolver in her pocket.
I love that bit the most.
Yeah, the revolver in the pocket and all just a load of confidence. And she was in Afghanistan, she was in places in winter, and it was just, her book's phenomenal. And I love some of her quotes in there about fear. Why have fear until fear's there? And she says a good adventure is alone, basically. She's a very solo-minded person in that book. I know she changes in her other ones, but she's a great read.
Yeah, and I think, I could be wrong, I'm picking this fact out of the air now, but I think that she has actually, Dervla actually passed away last year at the ripe old age of, I think, 90?
Yeah, at least 90, I think. Yeah.
But she did actually write, I think, around 20 books as a travel writer and as a cycle tourer. And I just love, it's like, for me, she was like a female at the frontier of cycling in this way. And especially when you think of, for me, I seek out female travellers because I really want to promote exactly what we're doing, because the more people that know that women are doing these things, the more women will perhaps want to do them themselves. And if you think of what Dervla was doing at the time, like, wow.
And the bike she was doing it on, the equipment that she had. And
I know. Oh my gosh. If I could have a wish, it would be to be able to interview her. Could you imagine the stories that she'd have as well?
I wrote to her daughter because I'm that inspired that I'd love to follow follow her journey, adventure one day, similar route. But yeah, I don't know if I got the right. You don't know nowadays how her email was quite hidden, so it was hard to get hold of her. So we'll see.
If you ever hear back, I'd love to know.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Oh no, for sure. And so I guess if we look then at how you've landed, I won't say fallen on your feet because you had some struggles there as well with obviously COVID times, but you have fallen head over heels in love with cycle touring as a form of travel. You know that this is what you want to do for a while. And if I look at the countries you've gone through since leaving Cambodia, I'm looking Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Mallorca, you did do Land's End John O'Groats in the UK and also part of the Wild Atlantic, or the Wild Atlantic Way in Ireland. I'm not sure if part or perhaps all of it.
The whole thing, yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
I want to delve into bits and pieces of these. So Costa Rica and Nicaragua, they're, I guess, unique countries. How did you pick them?
So yeah, it was the middle of COVID still, but Central America was very much open if you were double vax. So yeah, I was itchy feet. I was living in London, working 7 days a week, COVID testing all the football players. So got very lucky to get that job, and it kept me sane in COVID. And I did it for a good, probably like 10 months, and I saved up enough money, and I was like, right, I'm going. And it was quite a quick decision to go, but I just knew I wanted an adventure. So picked Costa Rica and had different ideas. I was going to do Colombia, Panama. I had lots of ideas in my head, and got there and basically did both sides of Costa Rica. So the Pacific side and the Caribbean side, and then rode through the middle. And then I was like, do I either go down to Panama or do I head up to Nicaragua? And everyone had been telling me not to go to Nicaragua. And when people tell me not to, I like to go. So, but it was people that had never been. So I'd say, oh, have you been to Nicaragua? Like, no, but you can't go. And I kind of try press people when they say that. Why do you think I shouldn't go? And I went, and it was a very friendly, and it was different, but people were still very friendly, and I really enjoyed it there.
Actually, hearing you say that, it reminds me, I think it was let me just think it through. I think it was episode 5 or episode 6. I interviewed Mark Gresser, an Australian who travelled from his home in Perth all the way to Paris. And one of the questions I had asked him there was, had there been any preconceptions that he had about a country before he entered, and when he went there it was totally different. And he had a similar experience with people putting him off countries, and often he said sometimes it would be the countries neighbouring those countries and the people from there would put you off more. But his experience was similar to yourself. People say, don't go there, it's dangerous, don't go there, it's not worth your while. And yet, for his experience, similar to what you've just said there, it was anything but amazing. It was an incredible experience to go there.
Yeah, it is exactly the same. So yeah, I was kind of heading towards the border, and it was the people living in Costa Rica who were, and not locals actually, the expats living there were very strongly, don't go. But as soon as I crossed the border, I could feel there was a difference there was a lot more poverty in Nicaragua. There was, you could tell a difference when you crossed the border. But I still got the friendly waves, all of the magic that you get on a bike tour. I still got there, but I was quite fearful because of what everyone was saying. So I was watching my back a lot. And when I've come home and I tried to tell people about Nicaragua, I still kind of do say, oh, maybe it was a bit scary, but I still think that was because of everyone saying it to me. And then but when I was there, nothing happened, only kindness happened. And I even fell off my bike there on the first day. A kid was waving at me, so I waved back, and I only had one hand on, and I went into a pothole, and I flipped over, and straight away Nicaraguans ran over. They got a bowl of water, put a bandage on me, sorted out my bike, and you're just like, it was a great thing to happen on day one, because my belief was up there that they were all really kind. And yeah,
I also imagine, and again, I feel like, when we're talking about Costa Rica, Nicaragua, when we're talking about those countries, I feel that they're potentially still on the road less travelled a little bit as well. So for us, as when I say us, white, Caucasian, English-speaking background travellers, we perhaps have no idea what to expect. So it's interesting for you looking back and reflecting back. You do remember a sense of fear, but that was probably fear that was planted in you rather than actual present fear. Do you think you'd ever go back there just to see what the experience would be like again?
Yeah, I'd like to. I really loved it. Like, there's so many active volcanoes. There's some great hiking there, and I got to do a lot of it. But yeah, I was not there for ages. I'd like to do a bit more time. But it's got quite a recent history of civil war, and maybe 10 years ago it might not have been a good idea to go. But I do think it's changing. And when I was there were a lot of travelers, first-time travelers, that because Asia was closed, all the 18-year-olds were in Central America. So I think actually it was really good for a place like Nicaragua, because they were getting tourists, and maybe it will help it become a bit more of a tourist hotspot. And I hope so, because it's a great place to travel.
Are you someone that is likely to go back to a place that you've travelled to before, or do you seek out new experiences?
I think I used to go back a lot, because I love meeting locals and then going back and seeing them. But I think now I'm like, okay, I'm trying to push to new places more. Yeah, because there's a lot of the world I want to see, and yeah, and not all the time. So yeah, it's definitely now I'm more about going to new destinations.
So actually then, let's talk about Land's End to John O'Groats, because as an English woman, what was it like discovering your own country on a bike?
I was going to say, so I came back from Cambodia pretty unhappy, I hate England. I'm not staying. I don't want to be here. And I was pretty horrible to be around, to be honest. Because all I would talk about was Cambodia, and all I would say, I want to be here. What are you all doing working in London? And I was not in a great place. And so I channeled my energy into setting up this small project called Mind Over Miles. And I asked two friends that I knew loved cycling to join. And I said, let's ride Land's End to John O'Groats for charity. So we picked Adventure Therapy as a charity. So they're in Cornwall in England, and they take people struggling with their mental health out kayaking, biking, climbing, basically using the outdoors to help their mental health. And yeah, it was COVID when everyone was struggling, and so there was myself, Pip, and Charlie. So we had a guy as well. So Charlie was very good at opening up the mental health for men as well. So it was a big thing to try to get people outside. And then we set this challenge of Land's End to John O'Groats, and we did it together. And yeah, like I said, I did fall in love with England again. And I thought, wow, this is in England. And it got me excited about the Lake District. It got me excited about Scotland, and that there's places in England that I'd love to explore more now. Yeah, and it was just really, it was a great adventure with friends, because I didn't do that one solo. I did it with mates, and it was fun. Except for I chose Pip as a triathlete, and has done Great Britain challenges, so she's very fast. And Charlie is ex-army, so they were off. And I was there going, oh, this is nice, that's nice, looking out. Like...
You're the traveller and they're the athlete. But I bet in some way, though, Claire, they probably actually, your way of touring on a bike probably drew them maybe more into the experience of it themselves rather than the physical challenge, like in appreciating their surroundings a bit more too. I'm sure you added quite a lot of value to their trip as well.
I hope so. I mean, the first day, I think they were like, oh no, Claire's so slow. But I think at the end of it, they were like, because you kind of, I'd say to them, oh, did you see Lake Windermere on your left? And they'd say no, and it's because their heads were down. So then the next moment they would lift their head, and it's just different. They love the speed and they love the physical challenge, so I totally get it as well. But yeah, I hope I slowed them down a bit.
For me, that's such the appeal of cycle touring, is because you do get to see a lot more than if you're travelling by another means of transport as well. So I hope that you inspire them to lift their heads and look left and right at times as well.
Yeah, they're great people, and I hope they tour more in the future. I know Charlie's done a few weekends by himself, so yeah, I think he'll get into it more as well.
Fantastic. Hello everyone, it's Bella here from the show. I just wanted to quickly ask you all a real big favour. If you really enjoy listening to the Seek Travel Ride podcast, could I ask you right now to go into your podcast playing app and take the time to leave us a rating and review? The reason it's important is this is the way our show gets pushed out to a wider audience and discovered. So I'd really appreciate it if you could do that. Or alternatively, how about you just talk about the podcast with your friends and family, share it on your social media. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. So, from Land's End to John O'Groats, let's talk about the Wild Atlantic Way in Ireland. I have to admit, when we were talking about COVID disrupting lives, my husband and I left Australia for our move overseas. We were aiming to be in France full time. We were doing a baby step approach of like our first stepping stone was actually Ireland. And we arrived just a few weeks before COVID shut everything down. So we ended up in Ireland for 18 months.
Oh, wow.
But the majority of that time was spent locked down. I got a few days in that time on the Wild Atlantic Way. We were in Galway. We went to and cycled toured down the cliffs of Moher and around the Burren, and it was absolutely spectacular. And it is still a big part of me. I have an itch. I feel like I didn't live in Ireland. I was sort of in this pseudo world, but I always now dream about the Wild Atlantic Way. Can you fill me in as what I should be looking forward to? Give me some of your highlights.
Yeah, it was a special trip. There's so many highlights. So I started further. I started from Belfast with some friends. So I was staying with a friend, and I set off from her house. And yeah, it was miserable weather. It rained and rained and rained, but I was so happy. It just didn't matter. I loved it all. But I really enjoyed Connors Pass, which is near Dingle.
Yeah.
climbed up that in the pouring rain, and luckily no one was on it, no cars were on it, because I know it has a dangerous path, but it was stunning with the waterfalls coming onto the road, and you're just one of those moments you're like, this is living. This is real living. If I make it to the top. That was a special bit for me. All of it, the Ring of Kerry, just being near the locals, and some of the beaches were fantastic. I couldn't believe we were in Ireland. I was in Ireland doing it.
Apart from the water temperature, they're just amazing. Like I often see photos of them, and I know them as well, that you know, beautiful white sandy beaches, beautiful clear water, sometimes rolling surf as well, depending on where you are on the coastline. Yeah. And if you just had a picture of it on a sunny day, not necessarily an Irish day, I could say, hey, look at this beach in Australia. No one would actually know, because it just looks quintessential. But if you were to put your feet in the water, you know pretty quick you're not in Australia.
Yeah, no, I thought it was all beautiful. I'd say I probably had 2 weeks of rain and 4 days of sun, but didn't matter. I didn't even speak about the rain after it, because it wasn't, for me, the people, the music. I loved the music. I was in Dingle and having an afternoon off, and I was looking for something for the bike, and it said bike shop, and opened the door, and it was a fully live pub with a band. And I was like, it says bike mechanic on the side, and it's not a bike shop at all. It was just this band playing at the middle of the day. And yeah, just people really looked out for me out there. So yeah, I had one lady in the pouring rain went past me. She was looking at me very concerned. She was like, why are you riding in this? And she went past, and then she turned around and she was like, I'm sorry, I just can't let you ride anymore. So she said, hold on to my window and I'll drive you to my house. It's a K up the road. So I just said, yeah, okay. Got to her house, and she was like, we're having a full Irish breakfast. She was like, the shower's there. Give me your clothes. I'll put them in the dryer. And so did all of that. And then 3 hours later, the rain stopped and I was on my way. And she's so kind. And so yeah, lots of stories like that of people just wanting to help.
It is such an Irish thing. It's something that's overwhelmingly Irish, is the friendliness of the people. And it doesn't matter how many times you might be told that before you enter the country, it gets to you from the moment you land there. I remember when we landed, and even just the people at the airport were all really friendly. Hello, hello. And it was like, oh my gosh, wow. Like, Australians, I think, are friendly enough, but this is a next level.
Yeah.
You sort of, if people know that you're on your own there, you become a member of the family very quickly. I know that's probably over-exaggerating it, but it does feel like that in the moment. I have to ask you, and this is purely for family connections, did you cycle parts of the Antrim coastline as well when you were in the north from Belfast?
Yeah.
There's some spectacular scenery up that way as well.
I think I did have terrible weather up there, but it was beautiful. I remember just being
dramatic weather. Very good. In fact, actually, speaking with my father-in-law just earlier about Dervla Murphy, because my in-laws are from Northern Ireland, and he was saying one of the anecdotes that he remembers was her talking about travelling to the north in Ireland, and how that was one of her seen as more dangerous tour at the time.
Yeah, and she went and interviewed people, didn't she, in the north when they were in the Troubles, and they were like, why are you here? It's dangerous.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, love you, Dervla. So, let's then talk about, how do you go from cycling smaller pockets through countries and stuff to all of a sudden Australia? It's one country, but really it's a country and a continent. It's huge, it's vast, it's probably totally different to other experiences you've had. What landed you there, and how did you decide that this is the way you're going to discover it, is on the bike?
Yeah, so it's another tough one, really. I'm trying to work it back. So basically, I got back from Costa Rica and Nicaragua and couldn't settle. I couldn't get a great job. I was just like all over the place again, and I knew I didn't want to settle, but I had both my brothers were getting married, so I was like, come on, Claire, you got 6 months in the UK, enjoy it with family. And then I was like, I'm going to Australia. So I booked my flights, got the visa sorted for the 1 year. And then for a while I was like, do I take the bike? Do I leave the bike? It was on my mind not to take the bike and, maybe do something different in Australia. But of course that changed, and I shipped the bike over with me.
The bike is now part of you, Claire. The bike can never be left behind.
Who was I thinking that I could leave it behind? But yeah, and I think all the time I knew I was going to take it. It was just quite a lot of organising to get it there. And then, yeah, I got flew into so I went to Cambodia first, and then I flew into Hobart in Tassie, because the guy I mentioned earlier, Jake, that hired me in Cambodia, he lives in Hobart, so I went to stay with him first of all.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it was just nice to see him again after Cambodia, and I spent a month in Tasmania, loved Tassie, and then I had the whole Australia cycle idea just came very quickly, and I was just like, right, in my head, I'm doing it all. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all. And I really haven't looked back since just making that decision that I'm going to do it. But I'm very much doing it like leg 1, leg 2, leg 3, because mentally I think that's really helped me not see it as this huge 16,000 kilometer ride. It's actually, okay, I'm going to do 2,000k in this time, split it up basically.
Actually, it's such a testament to the way you're traveling, and like you're talking about that mindset approach to making it manageable and making it achievable for you. That, you know, when you're talking about leg 1, leg 2, leg 3, this whole tour is, you know, 16,000 plus kilometers. I mean, oh my gosh, the sights and destinations and stuff you're going to see along the way there is mind-blowing in itself. But just even the fact that the legs that you're chopping it into are still 2,000 kilometers, that's so many people. That's so much bigger than so many people's cycle tours, full stop. Do you get excited and inspired by that? Like, are you excited by it?
100%. Like, I wake up every morning excited to do it, and I think when that leaves me, that'll be the time that I stop riding. But I'm still, yeah. It took a while. Like when I was doing kind of Melbourne to Sydney, I was like, I'm not getting anywhere. I was like, what? Was looking at the map. I love maps, and I was like, I'm only there, and I've got to get. And then when I started getting up further up, I was like, this is really, you know, and taking it in, but also going, wow, I'm really getting some distance now. And yeah, for me, it's just enjoying the day and just doing it. But I do love an itinerary, and I do love routes, and I do love mapping. So for me, it's like this massive challenge, and routing it all myself and using the rail trails. I haven't just been on the highways. I've been going off on fun rail trails and, you know, different sections to keep it from being too boring. You know, on a highway is not what I want to do. I want to go and meet people in the country, and yeah.
Actually, my mind just thinks about the type of rail trails that you would have been on as well, and there are some real fantastic ones that I'm aware of on that in Eastern Australia as well. And they're great as well because, like you said, what I really love about the rail trails is they've sort of birthed or rebirthed a lot of places out in the bush and in the country, like towns that would be, you know, with lack of a better way of saying it, you know, blink and miss it type of places,
Yeah,
have now actually got tourism and a life to them as well. And you can see the energy that that's given the locals. Have you had a favourite rail trail that you've gone the length of yet?
yeah, I have to give a shout out to it was up in Gayndah, so it was the Boyne Burnett Inland Rail Trail, and this gentleman called Mike had reached out via email because they all hear that you're on the rail trail, and then they tell the next town and the next town.
Oh my gosh, I love it already.
So actually, I'll go back to the start. So the section I did was from Brisbane to Rockhampton, all off road, and it's this guy is called Andrew, has called it the Great Queensland Rail Trail Adventure, and I found it online when I was just Googling, and it's basically only a handful of people have done it, I think, so far, and I was like, I want to do that. That sounds really fun. And it's linking all the rail trails together and just being off-road as much as you can, and it's about 600 to 700k off-road, which is awesome. And then so I got to Gayndah, and it was really remote. I was out in the bush and just thinking, oh my word, no one is out here. And this car comes up, and it's Mike in his car, and he's come and found me in the bush, and he set up a picnic table, had a bowl of cold water to wash my face, juice, food, and we were in the bush just eating this picnic, and he was amazing. And he drove me all the way into the town and was like, you're not camping tonight, you can stay at my place, and cooked a dinner, and just the hospitality and Mike's passion for the rail trails was just so nice to be around. He was so happy that an international person had come to try out his section of the rail trail. So his section was the following day. He goes out there, does the signs himself, mows all of the trails himself. He's in his 70s, I'd say.
It's such a pride project for him, isn't it? It's a deep sense of pride.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And he was just
I need to
incredible.
I need to actually have a look at this rail trail a bit more intrinsically on the map. In fact, actually, a request from you. You said there's only a handful of people that you know perhaps that have linked the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is there information online about it, or is it sort of like you've got to know someone who knows someone to find this out? Because maybe...
Yeah, no, there's a website now from this, and that's how I stumbled across it, and he's put the map together, and they're hoping in a few years more councils will get on board, and then they can link it even better, because at the moment there's some gaps, so you have to take a link road or a stock route, but in the future they're hoping they can link it all together. So yeah, I can send it.
Oh, please do. I'll include it in our show notes as well, because I mean, I know myself just a few Australians that would love to have this adventure. I know some of my friends who've done like the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail. Does that form part of this route?
Yeah, so that's the start, and then you link it all the way from there. So yeah, you do the Brisbane Valley Rail Trail, and then it gets, I would say, it gets rougher. You are walking in knee-high grass, some of it, and pushing up the bike, but it's fun. It's a good adventure.
Yeah, making lots of vibrations to scare the snakes away.
I didn't see any snakes on that section, actually, so...
Oh, actually, let's take a moment now then to talk about dangerous animals in Australia. How have you found it?
I have found it really fine. Like I do feel like people big it up that you're gonna see all of this. And I mean, I've seen some amazing animals, but I've never felt with the snakes and things. If you leave them alone, they'll leave you alone. Spiders, same. I've just not felt threatened so far. I've got the dingoes to come, I think. But no, I've had all sorts. I've had possums come in my tents and things like that, but nothing that's too scary.
Actually, a quintessential Australian experience, and I'm not sure whether you would have started your tour in time for this or if you've been fortunate to skip it. Did you cycle in Australia during magpie season?
I just skipped it, but...
Oh!
Yeah, because...
Now there's an experience and a half.
I'll give you that. I skipped it by a long time, but then randomly, like 3 weeks ago, I had one swoop me. And it's terrifying. Like, it's...
It is.
I don't think I didn't know about it. So for anyone listening from England, magpies literally come down to your head, don't they, and your ears.
They do. They do.
It's horrible.
They do. There was actually, I'm just trying to think, there was a website put together by an awesome, entrepreneurial person. I don't know. I can't remember if it's like Magpie Alert or Magpie Attack or something. And pretty much cyclists and walkers or other people can actually zoom in on a map and pinpoint where an attacking bird has been. And then it's even color-coded to the degree of, was it just, a flyby swoop where they're like making noise and flapping around your head, or were they connecting, or did they draw blood? And I have to say, the best strategy apparently is to actually just stop and get off your bike.
Oh, really? Okay.
But pretty much what you do, never try and wave them off. People who unbalance and actually fall and, hurt themselves pretty badly. My strategy has always been try not to be the person behind me. And if I'm on my own, it's just full on sprint and get out of there.
Yeah.
But I think magpies probably have caused me much more fear than snakes have ever done.
Yeah, honestly, they are pretty scary. I'm glad I missed the main reason for it.
And I guess just to finish off on Australian birds, have you had a favourite Australian bird yet? Because, I mean, coming back to Australia recently myself, having been away for over 3 years, the bird calls that I have forgotten about and that I'm hearing again are like, because they are just so different to birds on the other side of the hemisphere.
Yeah, no, they are. They're noisy. Like when you're trying to go to sleep, they're so noisy. What are those ones called? The white...
Oh, well, there's a few. There's cockatoos, there's crows, galahs.
Yeah, they're very noisy. So no, they're not my favourite. But they're pretty cool. But they just, when you're trying to sleep early, they're pretty noisy.
I had a friend who used to describe cockatoos as the Hells Angels, which is a motorcycle gang group of the Australian birds, because they sort of come in with a lot of noise, trash the joint, and then leave with a lot of noise.
Yeah.
I sort of think that's a little bit apt. But yeah, no, my favourite's probably the kookaburra. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's leave Australia fauna to one side now. When you were talking there about, planning out your map and really digging into places, did you have a list of must-dos for this trip as well? Like must-do sites, places, experiences for Australia?
Not really, actually. Like, I've been very open to not doing touristy things. Like, I haven't been to a lot of the big I toured like Fraser Island, I've skipped areas like that. I haven't worried too much about not seeing it. I've wanted to see the country Australia, and different to where the travellers are. I've very much done with the when you get to a city and it's just full of tourists. I want to be away from that. I did do Sydney and I loved it, but it was so hard getting in and on the bicycle. Like it was pretty tough.
Yeah, it's almost a sense of relief when you leave the city like that size behind you as well, because you feel like you're traveling for ages but not actually getting too far.
Yeah, exactly. And just being around traffic and all of that, it was a good experience, but I was very ready to get out. And like I'm loving northern Queensland, and being out on these roads where there's not many people about is lovely.
It sort of actually almost answers one of the questions I had for you, which is like, Australia is such a big, vast continent, but it's full of contrasts. So, you do have the hustle and bustle of the places like Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane, but then we have these vast open spaces where, dotted between, hundreds of kilometres are just really small little country towns with not many people. So the hustle and bustle of cities v remote sections of the country. I can see already you're a country lover.
Yeah, 100%. I love just ending up in a small town and meeting the local people that might have lived there the whole time, or and just getting to know that area. And I am much more of a country girl. And I was thinking this the other day, like I'm not worried about the remoteness, because Cairns to Darwin is going to have stretches of nothing. And I'm starting to think, am I weird for not caring that I'm not going to see anything or see anyone for a couple of 100k? But I think it's just all of the countries added together. Now I'm like, okay, it'll be remote, but I still will enjoy it for what it is. Because a lot of Australians say, why would you run it? Why would you want to ride just on a straight road with nothing? But for me, you still see it and you still feel it, and it's so different to home that I want to experience it in that way.
I guess that's something to think about, well, that you would have thought about with your planning, is you're going to go through very remote sections, and I'm guessing you're going to go through sections where you're going to have to be planning much more about food and water that you're taking with you as well.
Yeah, so the East Coast was pretty, I'm not going to say easy to organise, but it was easier to organise, because you've got shops, you've got people if you need. So I am taking this next section really seriously, in terms of preparation. Like I've got a huge spreadsheet of where there's food, where there'll be a stop, where I can fill up my water bottle, trying to be organised. But yeah, I will have areas and I'll have to carry all my food. So it's really cool. So I write blogs for Backcountry Cuisine, which do the frozen dried food, and you just add hot water. So I write blogs for them and they send me food, which is really nice. So I just carry that in my bag, and that's really, really helpful for these remote areas, because all I need to do is boil hot water and then I've got a nice meal.
Have you done some calculations beforehand of perhaps how much extra water and stuff you're going to have to take with you to traverse certain sections?
Yeah, so that's kind of why I've done the spreadsheet, to see when I can fill up with water. But I'm going to be able to carry about 20 litres of water, which might be extreme, but I do drink a lot of water, so I cook with it, and so I want to take as much as possible.
I don't think that's ever something to underestimate as well. I think, yes, it's going to weigh more, but you'd rather have the water you need than really feel like you're on the brink of running out as well.
Yeah.
And even with 20 litres, you'll probably be finding yourself that you are rationing.
Yeah.
This is me for today. Anecdotally, having interviewed a few people who've gone through Australia, what I have researched is, yes, the country is quite remote. You won't come across a lot of people, but there will be some people that you see, and it's amazing, even though they're not on a bike, like those people are really welcoming and understand the remoteness involved, and you'll probably get offerings of water along the way as well.
Yeah, I've heard that with the grey nomads and the caravans, that they're very helpful and that they will stop. I bought a radio so that I can talk to camper vans and trucks, because I was camping in a pub down in Marlborough, which is a random town, and I went inside the pub and I was the only female, and there was about 9 truck drivers in there, and the only seat was in the middle. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll go sit in the middle.
What an experience.
Yeah. And I basically asked them, look, is there anything I can do to be safer, anything that would make your lives easier, to see me on the bike? Because it's a two-way thing, truck drivers have a job to do. I want to stay alive. And it was a really good conversation. And I sat in there for hours with them, and they said, get a small radio and get on to channel 40 and you can talk to us and we can say, oh, Claire, we're coming on this road, we're 5 minutes away. Something just makes everyone's lives easier.
Have you just been listening in on interesting conversations on Truckee Channel 40?
Yeah, I just listen at the moment. I think I'll start tuning in and chatting back soon. But yeah, they just chat all day. They just talk about everything.
I am just smiling on the inside. Actually, if a viewer could see me, I'm just smiling thinking about the lovely Australian language that you'll be hearing on that radio.
It's gonna be interesting.
I bet you've picked some of it up somehow as well, and I wonder if it's like, if it's smoothing its way into just how you're speaking, just subconsciously anyway.
Yeah, someone said that to me the other day, that I said something really Australian, and yeah, I guess it does come after a little while. I don't know. I like some of the phrases that you guys say. So
it's funny. I'm like rabbit in the headlights because I can't think of anything just straight off the bat. But for sure. How you's going, mate?
I say, how you going now? Or how's it going?
Anyway, so you're wild camping interspersed with a bit of warm showers and maybe some house sitting as well on this route. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the way here, lots of wild camping campsites were just too expensive, and it was really frustrating actually as a cyclist that campsites in school holidays were like $40-50, and you're just
bucks. There you go. $40-50. There's an Aussieism right there. $40 or $50.
Yeah, that came as quite a shock, and then I was like, I'm just going to have to wild camp because I can't afford to, and it's not good value for money. I just need a bit of grass. Yeah, so I started wild camping, and I'm quite comfortable with wild camping. I tried to find, I really suss out the area, suss out a spot. But because Australians are so welcoming, I've hardly had to wild camp because someone normally sees me putting up my tent and goes, do you want to come in to our garden or do you want to stay at ours? And honestly, that's happened so many times where I've been pitching up, and people have been amazing about it. So I've done that. I've wild camped, and then I've used a lot of the scout halls. So scouts, Girl Guides, golf clubs have let me in. Yeah, so it's a lot of different places I've asked, and they've said, yeah, come on over.
I guess you were saying you don't have a fear of wild camping or anything. Are you surprised by that?
Oh, I lead with a positive mind, and I can't even think about what could happen because I would just not do it otherwise. I really try to live by not even think about what could happen, because then you scare yourself, and obviously I know it could, and I want to make sensible decisions. Yeah, no, I try not to even go there in my head.
I know I've mentioned this on previous episodes before, but it was actually a guest interview I had with Dr. Florence Cattell, and she's such an inspiring champion to me, and it was something, as a neuroscientist, she explained to me a positive mindset and dealing with this perception of fear. And she said it's not fear, she views it as bad luck. And bad luck can happen to anyone, anywhere, doing anything. So don't ever stop yourself from doing something or having an experience because you're worried about bad luck.
Yeah.
And I have to say, that has resonated in me so much. I think I like repeating it because I want people to actually try and adopt that positive mindset to say yes to experiences, not be put off by these perceptions of fear. I mean, you've had so many positive experiences already on all of your bike travels and through this tour as well. What would your toughest moment have been so far?
Oh, I think I know which one. I got heat stroke from Brisbane to the Gold Coast to Brisbane. I was trying to organise too much in one day. I was trying to please people. I was meeting someone in Brisbane, and I had 120k or something to do, and it was a scorcher of a day. And I had enough water. I was in a really, really bad place. And yeah, so I didn't listen to myself, and I was already, this is quite an interesting story. I was already at the point where you feel your stomach cramping, and I was like, I've got water, I've got salt, I was trying to sort myself out. And then this lady comes on a bike, all kitted out, triathlete handlebars, and she was like, follow me, I know a shortcut. And I was kind of like this at the time, really struggling. And I said, okay. And the competitiveness in me was like, okay, I'll go with this lady. And it turns out this lady is called Lisa, maybe someone you might want to interview in the future. She's attempting a world record attempt around Australia right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she wants to be the first woman to do the whole. I don't know which route is officially the whole lap. And yeah, so I met her on a training ride, and she absolutely kicked my ass. And then I was like, Lisa, I've got to let you go. I can't keep up. And after she went, I was a mess, and I staggered into Brisbane, and I wasn't very well. I was throwing up and all sorts. So you have to be very careful with a heat stroke because it can be really serious, and it took me a couple of days to recover from it.
And I guess in Australia you've got those sort of extremes to be dealing with as well. You will be travelling, so you're in the north of the country now where you've got wet and dry season. Are you going to be going through wet season while you're still up north, do you think?
No, so that's why I'm waiting right now. So I'm in Atherton doing this house sit because the Savannah Way is still flooded, or still parts of it are flooded. So everyone's told me not to go until at least middle to late April. So I am waiting, and I'm like, I'm so ready to go, but I have to be sensible and wait to let the rain go, and then it should be fine, and it should be cooler as well.
Is this an opportunity not just for you to recharge, but like go further into your itinerary and get excited about what's to come?
Yeah, 100%. I'm doing itinerary planning, all sorts. But I'm also meeting a lot of the Atherton locals because it's very cycling heavy. They love their mountain biking here. So a couple took me out for a mountain bike ride the other day, and I met a guy that has cycled from Perth, and he cycled all the way here, and then basically has stayed here because he fell in love with it, and he's stopped his tour, and he's working at the brewery, and he loves it here, but he might carry on his tour in a few years. Some really interesting people actually in Atherton.
I imagine that the experiences you've had with the people that you've met along the way are enough to fill a lifetime of storybooks as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. People have been incredible. Can't thank people enough.
And I guess then, we were talking about, lows of the trip. Ultimate high of the trip?
Oh, so many. I think that 600k off road would be really hard to beat right now because it was so thrilling. Like it was up and down and bumpy, and am I going to get through this bit? I also had 3 rips in my back tire, so I was putting slug plugs in my back tire, and it was just the ultimate. Am I going to get there? And I couldn't get a new tire, so it was fix it or you're walking. It was quite cool. I really felt like I came into my own there in terms of like physical. I felt really good, and just kind of like, yeah, it doesn't matter, I'm in the middle of nowhere, I can get myself there.
Oh, absolutely. It's sort of adventuring through adversity as well, and problem solving as you go.
Yeah, 100%. I always say that bike touring is so much more than just the cycling. It's when things go wrong, keeping positive and adapting to situations, all of that. It's so much more than just pedaling.
So you're in the top end now, up there in Atherton. I, as an Australian, know what you've got ahead, traversing down. Your itinerary then, it's not just a circle of Australia, is it? You're looking at going into the centre as well?
Yeah, so I really, really want to do Uluru, and just Central Australia is really calling me. So yeah, I'm going up to Darwin, then I'll head straight down the middle. And weirdly, the Nullarbor is calling me. So I want to do the Nullarbor, which for people that don't know is that long 1,500k, I think, stretch of pretty much flat road, nothing. So yeah, all of that's calling me. So I'm not doing a lap, I'm doing my own version of it.
And what bit is exciting you the most of what's coming up?
Oh, I think now from Atherton to Croydon, which is all on the Savannah Way. And then there's this woman that I've really have been waiting to meet for ages called Elizabeth Cage. And she's been quite a big part of my journey, messaging me, giving me contacts. And she lives out there, and it's very remote. So to be able to meet her out there and get some stories from her, and I really am going to listen to her advice about which route to take after there, because I'm not sold either way which way to go.
Oh, I love it. And it's a human interaction that you're looking forward to as well. Oh my gosh, Claire, it struck me just how much you've got ahead of you and the excitement in you. I just love that you're still full with excitement about this trip as well. Setting out on such a big trip, I love so many things that you've done to keep your mindset positive, to break it down into chunks, to be excited about things. It's not that you're going into things blind, but you're also seeking the less travelled, less exotic routes along the way. I think it's fantastic. I would totally welcome an opportunity when you've completed Claire's amazing tour of Australia to like catch up and fill in the gaps of what you've done from once we speak and finish off here as well. I think that would be absolutely fantastic.
Definitely. It is. It's a long way to go. Like it's, I've only done 5,000. I've got probably 11 plus thousand to go. So I know I'm so excited for what's going to happen and, who I'm going to meet. Yeah, I'm really, really buzzing at the moment. Yeah.
Oh, you should be as well. So I guess then, Claire, like for people who want to follow along with your journey and track your adventure and see where you're up to, how can they find you and how can they do this?
Yeah, so I try update a lot on Instagram because I just quite like the daily videos on stories, and I'll do a bit on there. For the next section, I'm going to be a bit quieter. I think I'm really going to take this section in for myself because I have been quite heavy on the social media, and I want to make sure I'm focused on the next section. But yeah, I'm on Instagram, Exploring by Bicycle. You can find me, and then yeah, I write blogs for my granddad. That's why I started that blog. He was a big traveller back in the day and he loves to read them. So I know he reads them with coffee in the morning. So that's my motivation to keep posting. So yeah, that's Wandering Wyatt, but anyone's welcome to read it. It's a little bit of mind dump on paper, but it's there.
It's been great. I have trawled through your blogs and read anecdotes of your story. And it's interesting, I was talking to you before we pressed record, like just even from your early blogs to now and talking with you, I have seen how your personality has grown and been shaped by your tours. So like, I know you're doing this for your grandfather, but the legacy that you've got just for yourself.
Yeah.
This is your own version. This is your first Dervla Murphy book,
Yeah, it would be nice to see how much has changed from the first tour to now, reading them back.
Oh, and I hope your granddad listens to this as well and hears some insights too.
Yeah, I'll definitely send it to him.
And hello to Claire's granddad. Hello. I have a couple of questions that I always finish off with, and I guess you probably know what they are, but I still ask them anyway. And the first one is, if you have the choice of pedaling uphill all day or having to cycle into a headwind, which one are you going to choose?
Yeah, uphill. I actually love hills. It's weird. I really enjoy a long hill.
Fantastic. What do you think it is about the hill that brings out that enjoyment?
I just love the grind. I love that feeling that it's gonna take you forever, and you're at the first quarter of it and you're hating it, but then you're getting closer and closer. Yeah, I love doing it.
It's funny because to some degree, the very first part of what you said, I love the grind. When I'm hit with a headwind, I feel like it's a grind.
Okay, yeah. Headwind gets in my head though. Like I get stroppy. I get all sorts. I don't cope well with headwind.
Oh no, I'm a bit the same. And my other question then, Claire, is 4 hours you've got to cycle on your bike one day. You can do it on your own or you can do it with other people. Which one are you going to choose?
If I could pick my favourite people, then I'd take my favourite people on a 4-hour ride, probably.
I'll let you pick. That's all okay.
I think to share it with someone is cool.
Well, before I say goodbye, Claire, there is an excerpt that I did come across your blog that you wrote about Australia, which I actually wanted to share with you now. And it was when you first stood out and you said, I should really know this by now. I'm on my 7th country, but the intruder in my head still doesn't feel capable of something of this magnitude. But I need to realise I'm there and I'm doing it. Claire, what I have to say to you is you are so there, you are doing it, you are achieving and kicking goals, and I am so excited for you that you have said yes to this adventure and you are taking it on full on. Like, honestly, speaking to you has inspired me. I know you're inspiring others, and well done, like, awesome. I just love it.
Thank you, Bella. That's really kind of you.
You so own that self-belief now.
Yeah, I'll take it forward. I'll take it forward for the rest of the journey.
Brilliant. Well, Claire Wyatt, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for saying yes to me sharing your story, and I'm looking forward to tracking your adventures along the way. To my listeners, I'll be putting links to Claire's socials and her own WordPress blog up in our show notes, so please follow her along as well. And who knows, if we're lucky, we might be able to do a follow-up podcast to wrap up the rest of her 11,000 kilometre journey through the rest of Australia. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wow, what an enjoyable story, and I really feel happy to have had the privilege to bring it to you, our listeners. Now, if you'd like to discuss this story or have any questions about the podcast, then why not join our Reddit community at Seek Travel Ride, a place where all our show's listeners can gather around, talk about the episodes that we've brought to you to date, and even propose some questions to our future guests. You'll find us there on Reddit in the Seek Travel Ride community. Also, if you really enjoy listening to the show, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button to be notified of new episodes. And please, feel free to jump into your podcast player app and give us a rating and review. It really does help because it pushes our show out to a wider audience and helps us grow that community even more. And if ratings and reviews aren't your thing, then just speak to your family and friends and share us on your social media channels. That helps out too. Lastly, if you've got your own epic adventure on a bike story that you'd like to share with our community, then please send me an email at podcast@seektravelride.com and get in touch to find out how you can be interviewed as a guest for future shows. Until the next episode, I'm Bella Malloy. Thanks for listening.